Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We shall chant verses 26 onwards, from verses 26 to 31, but we shall start with the first verse. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate, Samprapte San Nihite Kale, Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrin Karane. Kamam Krodham Lobham Moham Tyaktvatmanam Pashyati Soham Atmajnanavi Hina Mudha Te Pachante Narakanigudha Geyam Gita Nama Sahasram Dhyeyam Shripati Rupamajasram Neyam Sajjana Sanghe Chetam Deyam Dinaja Nayacha Vetam Sukhata Kriyate Rama Bhogaha Paschadantasha Rire Rogaha Yadhyapi Loke Maranam Sharanam Tadapi na munchati papacharanam Arthamanartham bhavaya nityam Nasti tata sukha lesha satyam Putradapi dhana bhajam bhitihi Sarvatraisha vihitaritihi Pranayamam Pratyaharam Nityanityavi Vekavicharam Japya Sametasa Madhividhanam Kurvavadhanam Mahadavadhanam Guru Charanambuja Nirbhara Bhaktaha Samsara Vyachi Radbhava Muktaha Sendriya Manasa Niyamadevam Drakshasi Nijahida Yastham Devam Bhaja Govindam Bhaja Govindam Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate Samprapte San Nihite Kale Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrin Karane Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrin Karane Nahi Nahi Rakshati Dukrin Karane. Apologies for the delay because of some technical issue. So the last we covered was the 27th verse, where he gave us the Bahiranga Sadhana. Bahiranga Sadhana means the external spiritual disciplines, the spiritual disciplines to be practiced at the material, physical, emotional, and intellectual levels of one's personality. At the material level, we learned the wealth to be given to the needy. Deyam Dina Janaya Chavittam, the wealth to be given to the needy. We have discussed this in detail. Wealth is just a commodity with which you can buy something, sense object, something tangible. So wealth is the lowest of all. It is the grossest of all. Something which is tangible is the grossest of all. That which we are dealing with here, spiritual transformation, we are talking about the emotions and thoughts. They are the intangible aspect of one's personality. They are not gross, they are subtle. So one has to rise above the gross physical and the material levels of the personality in order to show real promise of a true transformation. If someone is gross and caught up to the material objects and what material wealth can give you, or is one caught up in merely worshipping the senses and sense indulgences, such a person can never be truly qualified for spiritual transformation. I repeat what I have said. Material wealth is just a gross commodity which can be exchanged with sense objects. It is a tangible aspect. It is something physical. It's gross. The spiritual journey, spiritual transformation happens at the emotional and intellectual level. Your emotions and thoughts are intangible. They are subtle. They are beyond the gross aspects. So if you and I are truly interested in spiritual transformation, you must understand you are looking to address the subtle aspect of your personality. But if you are caught up at the physical and the material level, what chance do you stand for true transformation? No chance at all. Therefore, you must exhibit a great level of detachment to the material and physical world. You must truly rise above the temptations of the physical and the material world. One and one only who has truly conquered the material and physical demands, such a person rises to the, he can go up the ladder to the emotional and intellectual level. And then comes, you're trying to get rid of your vasanas. And then the journey is way beyond that. That is true spiritual transformation. Now, why I say all this is when he says wealth must be given to the needy, wealth must be parted. Now, it is very difficult for people to part with wealth. I don't have to tell that to you. People have developed such an attachment to material wealth. It is not how much you have amassed, it's not how much you possess, but it's very difficult to part with it. And you can't part with it because you're attached to it. Let me be very upright. If you are detached to it, you will have no qualms in parting with it for a cause you believe in. But as long as there's attachment that limits you, it holds you back. I'm very beautifully reminded of a quote or a doha by Sant Kabir, and it's so beautiful. Whenever you sing Kabir doha, is very, very touching, And the quote I'm referring to goes something like this. साई इतना दीजिए जामे कुटुंब समाए मैं भी भूखा ना रहूं साधु न भूखा जाए कबीरा साधु न भूखा जाए साई इतना दीजिए जामे कुटुंब समाए मैं भी भूखा ना रहूं साधु न भूखा जाए कबीरा साधु न भूखा जाए. Some of you who couldn't understand, I'm sure you do feel, I really feel every word that conveys a message. Now, what's the message is the title of these doha is, oh God, grant me or give me such wealth. No, everybody is possessed with wealth, but you are praying to God to give me the wealth, means give me wealth with that attitude. What does it say? Give me such wealth that my community is fed. साई इतना दीजिए जामे कुटुंब समाए. Samay, I can embrace the community. मैं भी भूखा ना रहूं, which means, I don't remain hungry. साधु न भूखा जाए Kabira, means you are able, and he also says even the Pandit doesn't go hungry. So the accent is to be able to have that spirit of detachment to wealth. All that is what he's saying. I should have enough wealth that I am fed, the community is fed, those who are uplifting the community, they are also fed. The Sattvic people, the Brahmanas, they are also fed. So it just it means that I must develop that spirit of detachment, no question of I and my. And if at all I have anything, must go only to my kith and kin. All your efforts are only driven towards my kith, my kin. My son must get this, my daughter must get this, and all they get, whatever I have. I will not enjoy with the only hope that they enjoy. So what I do, I don't do any good. If at all I do some good, is just to appease my conscience. One should not, and the objective is not whether the recipient is benefited. Remember, you do charity because you have to grow, you have to shed your selfishness. That was a very pertinent point we gathered. Okay, now moving on to the other half of the verse. At the physical level, we did mention this, Neyam Sajjana Sanghe Chittam, where he said the mind should be associated with the good. That in fact, did we not say it is the spirit of satsang? Your entire transformation starts with the very first step. Satsang is, sat means good, sang means the company. Satsang is the first step for your spiritual transformation. We mentioned that of the 9th verse, correct? We gave a reference to the famous verse of Bhaja Govindam, where he gives the ladder of rise. Sat sangatve nisangatvam nisangatve nirmohatvam nirmohatve nischalatatvam nischalatatve jivan mukti. So the ladder of rise is, he says, first is satsang, the company of the good. From the company of the good, you develop, what do you develop? Nisangatvam, non-attachment. Nisangatve nirmohatvam. From non-attachment comes, what does it come? Nirmoha, freedom from delusion. From freedom from delusion, what does it come? Steadfastness. From steadfastness, you gain moksha. which is enlightenment. So this is the ladder of rise. Now, the satsang. Why do you seek satsang? Why do you court right company? Why do you want to keep the right company? The only reason you seek the right company is for your own transformation, isn't it? A person who is seriously interested of his own betterment chooses to keep the right company when the natural gravitation of your mind is towards the lower, isn't it? You must mark the words. I'm trying to convey a concept here. Please bear in mind. Satsang is the company of the good, and you are constantly choosing the company of the good at all levels of your personality. What sights you see, what sounds you hear, what emotions you entertain, what thoughts you entertain, everything, whatever you do, what food you eat, what clothes you wear, every aspect of your personality must be in the interest of the higher, for your own betterment, for your own purification. That is satsang. Huh? Now you do that for your own betterment, given the fact that the natural tendency of your personality is to be drawn towards the lower. Don't ask me why. The mind naturally gravitates towards the lower. The mind wants to indulge. The mind wants to aggrandize. The mind's thoughts are selfish. The mind develops negative emotions. It gets into negativity very easily. So in order to practice satsang, you must use the intellect. You must use a conscious effort to create an environment of satsang. Mark these words. Satsang is not a natural process. It is a lot of effort that is created to establish or create an environment so that you are well and truly in the path of development, which is the ladder of rise I just spoke about. From satsang comes non-attachment, freedom from delusion, steadfastness, realization. If you want to go well and truly into the ladder of rise, you must start with satsang. And in order to create satsang, you must fight against the natural tendency of yours, which leans towards dussang. The mind is naturally driven towards dussang. If I give you raw vegetable, cut vegetable, uncooked food, less oil, less spice, and some, on the other side, you have all the junk food, what would you choose? You would automatically want the junk food, isn't it? You don't know, but why? What is this raw carrot and raw cucumber? And what is this? Is this breakfast? Actually, this morning, somehow I got into this video of our Vinayji, I must thank him for connecting me to this idea. He put a plate and he took a video of that breakfast of his. And his breakfast was some greens. I think greens were there or not, but some fresh cut vegetables and some figs and variety of nuts and that and this. He said, "This is my breakfast," and he was singing a song over it. I was so excited. And if those of you who know him, he is full of energy. No wonder, because he makes the right choice of choosing right food. So not to be gravitated towards the lower is satsang. So you got to fight that natural instinct of falling a prey to the lower. That is satsang. And one of the worst faults you can ever get preoccupied. The worst fault of ours, our worst fault is to be preoccupied with the faults of others. Our worst fault is to be preoccupied with the faults of others. So when I am in company with the world, I can get carried away with the shortcomings and faults of others. That is dussang. That is nothing but, what do you call that? Getting preoccupied with the faults of others. What do you call that? Attitude or tendency or approach to life. What do you call that? question is, what do you call the attitude of getting preoccupied with the faults of others, so much so you're only interested in reforming others? Oh, my job is to transform the world. My job is to reform the world. I am a God-sent messenger. So please give me the pedestal. I want to go about changing everybody. Ayyo Rama. Self-appointed custodians of God. So what is that? I think somebody is very poetic. Vasanti, foolishness. Is that you what you said? Maybe it's somebody else. Finding fault. Yes, what my question is, what do you call the attitude of getting caught up in the faults of others? Self-righteousness, criticizing, super. Don't use such high words. I don't understand, Srimati Ma. Super, I can't even pronounce it. What is this? I need to now learn English language now to understand you all. Supercilious. Paravala. It's something I have taken note of it. I'll look up the dictionary. Negativity, arrogance, sarcastic nature. In fact, in spirituality, if you're more interested in transforming others, that attitude is known as, that quality is known as being extroverted. When your thoughts and attention are on something other than yourself, you are extroverted. That attitude of extroversion, you're only interested in others. So what I'm trying to draw a connection is, dussang is being extroverted, satsang is being introverted. When I choose to be in the right company, I'm only interested in my transformation. At all times, I want to uplift myself so that I evolve in the path towards perfection. And that is not an easy thing. It is very easy to be occupied or preoccupied with the faults of others, isn't it? It is very difficult to find one's own faults. Now, can I ask you all this question? I hope you get this answer right. Why is it very easy to find the faults in others when you may have the same fault pronounced multifold times within you? It is very difficult to identify the fault within oneself, but it is very easy to find the same fault in others, even if it is just a minuscule nature. Why is it difficult to find faults in oneself? Why is it easy to find faults with others? Have you ever thought of it? Isn't it, first of all, you agree with me, is it, there is nothing wrong in the question. Huh? It is not, what do you call that? It's a straightforward question. So the question is very valid. Why is it? We lack self-awareness. Srimati Ma, thanks for using a word which I know. Huh? We use different lenses. What we don't acknowledge in ourselves, we see in others. False mind, ego. We are being a witness to others' actions. To justify our action, that is, it's common. You are judgmental by nature. You receive a kind of pleasure. Yeah, it is very, very satisfying. Huh? And in fact, Shakespeare says, jealousy is a green-eyed monster, he says. Shakespeare says, jealousy is a green-eyed monster. It mocks the meat it feeds on. Very interesting to examine that. Jealousy is a green-eyed monster. It mocks the meat it feeds on. So jealousy is very entertaining. That's all he's saying. And it entertains you and it destroys you. It kills you. Like if you ever seen a cat and a mouse, the cat actually goes about entertaining itself with the mouse. And once it entertains itself, then it strangles and kills it. Similarly, it mocks the meat it feeds on. So he says, jealousy is a green-eyed monster. It mocks the meat. Who is the meat? You are the meat. It entertains you and then destroys you. It kills you. So beware of any negativity. Okay, simple thing. Let's say if I have got a mosquito bite or an ant bite, you're doing gardening work without gloves. Sometimes, you have these red ants and they come and sting you. And then, my God, it's very, very painful, very superficial. You find a lot of irritation. What's the most satisfying thing to do? Keep scratching. You keep scratching. I tell you, what amount of satisfaction you get. Whew. But then you will soon realize that you've really done substantial damage, or you start even bleeding. That is what jealousy is. It is the most satisfying thing to do. But just to not react to that pain, or the pain you feel, that is endurance. It's not easy, but it's easy to scratch. So similarly, it's very easy to get into negativity. It's very easy to find faults with others. In fact, why is it? It's easy. In fact, I think Gayatri Ma's answer comes the closest. In fact, she spells it out. No doubt, all others have said contributes to it. But one primary reason why am I able to find faults with others is because I am not involved in your personality. I just stand apart and I'm objective, or I am detached to you. Since I'm objective or detached to you, I am able to clearly identify the faults of others. But I can't find my own faults because I'm involved with myself. I'm too caught up with myself. So I don't see myself as a third person. So I don't know where I'm going wrong. And when somebody looks and points out, the natural tendency is instantly you become defensive. So you can't accept it. You can't take it. You reject it. It boomerangs back on them. So you can't really change. So if you want to truly develop yourself, you must put on the hat of introversion. You must be an introverted person. You must seek satsang. So satsang is being introverted. Dussang is being extroverted. I'm reminded of a beautiful poem. Remember, I learning long way ago. One of the first things we learn in the course I've studied is the poems, and it's a compilation of some beautiful poetry. There's a author, poet. I think his name is John Gay. J. Gay. And some of you may have heard this poem, but it's very interesting. I'll quote it. The poem is titled "The Turkey and the Ant." How many of you have heard it before? None of you have heard it, huh? Okay, I'll become very poetic now then. The turkey and the ant. The poem is exactly verbatim like this. The poet says, "A turkey tired of common food forsook the barn and sought the wood." A turkey tired of common food forsook the barn and sought the wood. Behind her ran an infant train, collecting here and there a grain. "Draw near, my bird," the mother cries, "this hill delicious fare supplies. Behold the busy Negro race, see millions blackened all the place. Fear not, like me with freedom eat, an ant is the most delightful meat. How blessed, how envied were our lives, if only we could escape the poulter's knife. But man cursed man, on turkey praise, and Christmas shortens all our days." Now, these are the few initial lines of the poem. I'll explain. A turkey tired of common food forsook the barn and sought the wood. A turkey, along with his little ones, was living near a barn. A barn is where the grains are stored. So what it means, it had plenty of food in abundance. But what happens in life when you have something in abundance and you're taken for granted? You get tired of it. You get bored of it. There's no Bhaja. You want some variety. So turkey also was tired of common food, forsook the barn and sought the woods. Behind her ran an infant train, collecting here and there a grain. So the little turkeys which followed the mother were still collecting here and there a grain. Means they have not left far from the barn. They have not got deep into the woods, and suddenly they find an ant hill full of black ants. And then the mother instantly says that the little ones were till now only eating dead grains, no? And suddenly something black was moving. The little ones were afraid. The mother says, "Fear not, like me with freedom eat." An ant is the most delightful meat. Don't ask me how is it. I am just conveying what the poet is saying. The ant is the most delightful meat. And certain parts of the world you go, you will ask them, they'll tell you. They will eat anything possible that is crawling, they'll eat. You find the ants are roasted, scorpions and caterpillars and bugs, everything are roasted and served. I've seen it in my own eyes. I've seen it in certain parts of the world when I travel. That is a delicacy. So an ant is the most delightful meat, he says. And now what it is, and then what the next line, what the turkey says, how blessed, how envied were our lives, could we but escape the poulter's knife. Now what it's conveying is, first, the turkey wanted variety, it got variety. Isn't it? It got black ants. The moment it got black ants, what it's saying, how blessed, how envied were our lives if we could escape the poulter's knife. And it's the turkey saying, Christmas shortens all our days. So once a year, during Christmas, turkeys are slaughtered. And at the same time, what is the turkey doing? In fact, seeing all this drama going on, an ant, he puts a comma there, an ant who climbed beyond her reach does answer from a neighboring breach. An ant who climbed beyond her reach does answer from a neighboring beach. This is the philosophy of the poem. Ere you remark another's sin, bid thy own conscience look within. Ere you remark another's sin, bid thy own conscience look within. Control thy more voracious bill, nor for a breakfast's nation's kill. So the turkey was killing a nation of ants for breakfast and is complaining that a man is killing a turkey once a year. This is what is called extrovertedness. If you are extroverted, what you learn? What do you learn if you're extroverted? What do you learn from the poem? Ere you remark another's sin, bid thy own conscience look within. This is what I'm saying, go introverted. But when you're extroverted, what do you experience from the poem? What do you gather? What are the points? As you know, my job is to engage you all. Make you all think. I can quickly say so and move on. But that's not my style. Don't be angry at me. Huh? Ayyo, this fellow doesn't even go. Every time he gets stuck with some concept. This is my style. I will take you along. So what is the question, Rajima?
If you're extroverted, what happens?
Perfect. Now what's the answer? I'm with you, Rajima.
It will lead to your own fall. Your own.
But the turkey, there's no fall of the turkey.
Ultimately served for dinner on Christmas.
That's good. Yes. Now, but it is your own fall. But yes, very true. What are the things you gather? What's the takeaway from that? You will go away from the self. Ramanaji is saying, yes, you're nowhere near your own betterment. Hariji perfectly says, you are never contented with what you have. The moment you're extroverted, there is never contentment. The turkey had a barn full of grains, it was never contented. So are you experiencing a life of contentment, satisfaction or fulfillment, or are you experiencing a life of void, emptiness, insecurity? These are the two contrasting feelings or emotions you experience within. And it is not determined by what you do. It's only determined by for what you do. So if you have a spirit of yajna, as we say, if you have the spirit of unselfishness, if you have a spirit of sacrifice, you'll always find yourself very satisfying. In fact, I had somebody today coming and sharing his life's experiences, and he was saying this, that all I believed in working for a larger cause, and I've lived a very satisfying life. And I said, yes, sir, absolutely true. You resonate what Vedanta says, what these great truths are saying. So if you always have an interest of others, you will find very satisfying. You may not have much with you, but you will be very, very satisfied. But you may, if you think in the terms of aggrandizing and don't have the spirit of sacrifice, you will never be contented in life. So extroverted life is very empty. You may have everything, yet you feel yourself empty, or you feel insecurity. So there's a lot of thought in that concept. So that's what mind associated with the good means. So introvertedness is satsang, extrovertedness is dussang. It is difficult to maintain satsang because you're fighting against the natural gravity towards the lower. So you will have to use the intellect to consciously withdraw the mind from the lower, which is very entertaining, and seek the company of the higher for your own transformation. If you're not conscious of it, you'll fall a prey to dussang, which is very, very entertaining though. Okay. So I wanted to bring in this connection. All right. And then the third point, he says, form of the Lord of Lakshmi, always meditated upon. Dhyayam Shripati Rupa Majasram. Dhyayam means to be meditated. Shripati Rupa Majasram, the form of the Lord of Lakshmi. So you must meditate on the Lord of Lakshmi. The Lord of Lakshmi is Lord Vishnu. So you must meditate on the Lord of Lakshmi. Here he refers to the emotional level, which is symbolic of the attitude of surrender. In fact, today, not a while ago, I looked at a lovely story which Tinkima had shared on surrender. I would request Tinkima to actually share it in the Wisdom Satsang group. It's a beautiful read. It's a very, very nice story, the way it was conveyed, you know. So it conveys the spirit of surrender. So at the surrender, when does surrender happen? Surrender only, okay, it's a very deep concept. I would not slip into it, but since I've asked, when does surrender happen? Surrender happens in areas of one's ignorance. When you don't know something, you surrender. But surrender also, what does surrender convey is you are very grateful for what the Lord has provided, for what providence has provided. What is the opposite of providence providing? Harishji. Harishji, what is the opposite of the providence providing? I'm conveying the concept of surrender. Surrender here is surrendering to the Lord, being thankful for what providence has provided to you. It may not be more, it may be less, but whatever it is, I have surrendered to that providence. The opposite of that is
to strive and struggle yourself.
Strive and struggle. What does that create?
Creates unsettled mind. It creates all sorts of, let's say, disturbances.
Mentally, it unsettles you. Yes. You're still striving, struggling in life. What further?
It means that you lack something, because if you're going on striving, then you don't have something. So it also in a way conveys an emptiness.
Striving, emptiness. Right. Yes, Ji. Vasantama. Solungo.
Greed.
greed.
You crave for more.
There is a craving or greed for more. Very true.
Desire.
Desire. That's true. There is no end to that.
Thirst.
The thirst, the greed, the desire for more. Yes, Srimati Ma.
If Providence hasn't provided for you, then you probably go and acquire and take what doesn't belong to you, perhaps.
No, what is that if? You say if Providence doesn't provide, where did if came? I can't understand.
You said no, opposite of Providence providing.
But
Wasn't that the question?
no, I know. I agree my question, Ma.
No, I'm wondering whether I didn't get that right.
No, you got it right. But I was trying to just examine that statement when say if the Providence. So is there something as Providence doesn't provide?
If you're not contented with the Providence's provision for you,
Yes.
then you go, you want more and you want to get it by hook or by crook, and you might want to acquire things that really do not belong to you. You covet other people's things which you should not.
I would immortalize these words. No, so well put it, Main. You end up coveting something which doesn't belong to you. Very true. But this, in fact, what you said, it's not that Providence doesn't provide. So if you don't have that faith in that Providence,
yes,
when you're not attuned, when you don't surrender, that's exactly what is getting at. Very well captured, beautifully captured. You also, please, this quote of yours in the satsang group. You're not a part of the group. Are you part of the group, Dana?
I don't know what I said. I'll try.
That is your humility now, huh?
No, I'm sure. I promise you, I don't remember.
No. It is beautiful. What you said is very beautiful. So this is.
Thank you, Guruji.
Yes, lovely. So this is what the spirit of surrender. Now, when you look within, when you ask yourself, when you stand in front of the mirror and look at yourself, am I the person who has fallen a prey to greed and strived and struggle, as Harish has said, or craving and thirst, or coveting, as Srimati Ma said, all these, I belong to that aspect of, does that aspect of my personality reflect in me, or do I do my part? Whatever little I am, I do my part, and then surrender the fruits of my labor to the Lord, and let's Providence decide and determine what I desire, what I deserve. So to operate moment to moment, surrendering to a cause beyond oneself. I tell you, this is the path of the sacred, path of the secular. Either you make or mar. This is perhaps, if you have this, you're done for life. Everything else shall happen. Everything. In fact, thereafter, whatever you do, you bring the melody out of your work. You bring divinity into your work. Everything is divine music. Everything is divinity. Or you make a hell of your life. Insecurity, pain. Mind is never peaceful and happy because there is some kind of attachment. Why should I worry of my and my family? You're worried of your mind and your family is because you have not surrendered to the higher. Wherever there is that lack of surrender to the higher, the Lord will take care. Whom am I to decide what my family needs, what my child needs, what I need? As long as your worry of I and my is there, the doors are shut. I am quoting something which everybody often says, ego is exit God out, isn't it? When I and my is there, when I want to take my life into my hands, that means, I'm sorry, don't interfere with me. Do not enter into my life. I know what is right. I know I can take care of my life. That's the attitude. Can you take an example where there is no ego and the world takes care? Just to substantiate practical examples where you have no ego and the world takes care of you. Hari is in full form today. Hari ji. A child or a baby has no ego at all. And the moment the baby cries, everybody in the house rushes to the child to take care of what the child needs, isn't it? And who else has no ego? Look around at society. A madman and a saint. Correct. The list is complete. So a madman also temporarily no ego. You don't have to be mad. Temporarily, let's say a fellow who is drunk gets so drunk, he has completely lost himself. He has lost the composure, no grip of himself. And a fellow is got drunk and he is not able to manage himself. The people around him, that film having a lot of cash, his wallet and his phone has fallen out because he is nowhere in his senses. So people get hold of his wallet, take his phone, take his belongings, put it in his pocket or his jacket, take his things, put him in a car, drive him home and take him. Temporarily, he can't take care of himself. The world takes care of him. So who? The fellows who have drunk less will take care of you. That's about all. There no fellow who will be, no teetotaler will be in a pub. So thank God that some fellow is less drunk than you, so he can take care of you. It's only relative. Isn't it, Harishji? Only relative. One fellow is drunk less or more. So that is providence. And ultimately, a man with no ego, a spiritually evolved person, he doesn't think of himself. He doesn't take care of his life because he's not working of himself. To that extent, he doesn't think of himself. The world will take care of him. This is a law of life. But you don't have to try to prove it to the world. You just have to be. It will speak volumes. Just be yourself. So that at the level of emotion, you must develop surrender. And at the last thing he says, at the intellectual level, the very first line of the verse which says, Geyam Gita Nama Sahasram. The Bhagavad Gita and the Sahasranamam should be chanted. At the age of 9 or 10, I could rattle off the Sahasranamam. In fact, my guru kept saying that I took you because you could chant the Sahasranamam. At 16, when I went to him, he said, you could chant the Sahasranamam, therefore I took you, he said. But it was something which my father put me the ritual. First thing I came out of bath on that wet towel, he would say, sit there on that bench, and he would play that. I still remember, visualize the old tape recorder, that cassette we had, that the cassette which had that picture of M.S. Subbalakshmi with Bhaja Govindam, and then which led to the Sahasranam, the Vishnu Sahasranamam 1 and 2, the two sections, two parts. So this was a ritual in our home. And I would not even put my school uniform without finishing the Bhaja Govindam and the Sahasranamam. Thanks to him. And it got ingrained in it, and that drew me to it. Vasanas have to be there, but obviously he created an environment. He nurtured it. Unknowingly, it got into me so deep. Now, rest of my life, I'll be saying the same Bhaja Govindam, what I used to mutter at a very young age. So it is Bhaja Govindam. In fact, today somebody was saying, many a time, many people say that, oh, I chant the Bhagavad Gita. Now, does it mean a mechanical repetition of the chant? When you say Bhagavad Gita and Sahasranamam should be chanted, it is not a mere it's not a mere mechanical repetition of the words. You're getting into you're not caught up in the words, you're getting into the spirit of the words. You're going into the inner bowels of the literature, what is contained in between the words, not got carried away with the words. So it is not the length of study, it is the very deeper penetration into those words. It's the very depth of that philosophy which those words contain. That is what is said. So the intellect is trying to understand the unknown. So Hariji, as I said in one of the earlier classes, now you see the mind is purified with surrender. The intellect is trying to understand the subtle scriptures. So the emotion is chaste. The intellect is sharp. With the help of the emotion and the intellect, you are able to cut through the ignorance in the form of your vasana. So you need the head and the heart. The blend of head and heart must be there. It is not exclusive. It is inclusive of material, physical, emotional, intellectual. The Bahiranga sadhana, the external spiritual disciplines. Okay, that was verse 27. Let's get to 28. Yes, Hariji, it's a true symphony. Right. Sukhata kriyate Rama bhogaha paschadantasha rire rogaha yadhyapi loke maranam sharanam tadapi na munchati papacharanam. Sukhata kriyate Rama bhogaha paschadantasha rire rogaha yadhyapi loke maranam sharanam tadapi na munchati papacharanam. Now, this is the last section of the text where, as you see the title, these are the 4 verses where the Guru is giving his blessings. So till now, the few disciples who were with him, they gave their understandings of what Adi Shankaracharya gave an initial note. The disciples, the 14 disciples, the 14 verses were attributed to the Chaturdasha Manjarika Stotra. The 14 verses are attributed to each disciple as a bouquet of flower to each disciple. And the concluding 4 verses is the blessings of the Guru. Now, what is the message here? The verse is cautioning us of carnal pleasures. Beware, avas, beware of carnal pleasures. Now, what does the verse say? Sukhata kriyate Rama bhogaha. One happily, sukhata kriyate. Can we have the verse please again? Sukhata kriyate Rama bhoga. One happily indulges in the carnal pleasures. Alas, later on the body becomes diseased. Yadhyapi loke maranam sharanam. Though death is the very end in this world, even then one doesn't leave his sinful behavior. I think the last section of it is not seen though. Why? I wonder. Never mind. Yadhyapi loke maranam sharanam tadapi na munchati papacharanam. Papacharanam means sinful ways. He does not munchati. He does not leave. So the last 4 verses. Yes, sir. Thank you. So the last 4 verses, as I've said, summarizes the blessings of the Guru. Verse 28 talks of Kamini. Kamini is? Hariji, could you stop sharing, please? Thank you. So, what is Kamini? Let me ask Ushama. Ushama, do you gather the theme of the text? What is the theme of the text?
Like, if you're involved in carnal pleasures and then continuously throughout your life, then your body also becomes diseased, and even your conscious is not, it is not up, graded up or that kind of a thing. And even when you're in your last stages of your life, which is a natural process, even then you will be with sinful thoughts and sinful ideas.
Correct. Very well explained. Now, this is conveyed as Kamini. So Kamini here means sense enjoyment or indulgence conveyed, symbolized by woman. They don't not to degrade woman here, but he conveys the two primary motivations of man. What are the two primary motivations? In acquisition and enjoyment. So verse 28 talks about Kamini. Verse 29 talks of Kanchana, acquisition. Next, the 30th verse gives us the Antaranga Sadhana, the internal disciplines. And the last verse, he gives the blessings of the Guru. He says, how is it that the Guru is the most important person in your spiritual journey? Please never ever take your Guru for granted. Don't ever undermine the Guru's role in your transformation. So the last verse, he says what role a Guru plays in your spiritual molding. Okay, so coming to the 28th verse, here he talks about the first, one of the motivations rather, of enjoyment. One happily takes or indulgence in carnal pleasures. Now, why sukhata kriyate rama bhoga, carnal pleasures? Why does one indulge in sensual pleasures? Annapurnama, can I ask you the question? Why does one indulge in any sensual pleasure?
Because easily we feel happy and we feel happy.
Okay, anything more than that other than feeling happy?
And that's what we see all around us, people indulging in sensual pleasures. And because from at a young age, we don't have the concept of rising above indriyas and things like that. So by the time we grow up, we get knowledge, we get used and so much into these pleasures.
Correct. It seems to be a norm thereafter. Everybody lives that kind of a life, isn't it? Yeah, very true. Any further observations? Why does one take to these carnal pleasures or sensual pleasures? Natural tendency of the mind, lack of control of the intellect. Okay, no self-control. C.N. Murthy Garu is saying instant gratification. Any pleasure, any sensual pleasure has immediate gratification. So what is the pull of sensual indulgence is instant gratification. It gives you immediate. So you don't have to wait to get the gratification. And it is that pull of the gratification. In fact, the pull is from the sense objects. The push is from the senses. So you must understand an individual is actually torn apart by these two forces of the pull and the push. The senses are pushing from within. The sense objects are designed to attract the senses. So one is torn between the push and the pull. And if you don't have that, like Hariji said, no self-control, you will instantly fall a prey to the gratifying sensual pleasures, which is immediate happiness. Now, what kind of happiness is this? Gayatri Ma, what kind of happiness we are talking about here?
Happiness for the physical level, instant pleasures.
What kind of happiness you call that? Any idea? Satisfaction of the senses, law of diminishing happiness. Your goal well, full philosopher. Before you're thinking ahead of the teacher, of the Guru. Najima, what kind of happiness is this instant pleasure? Temporary though, yes, they are temporary. Animalistic pleasure. Yeah, Rajima? Temporary. In fact, Vijayama has correctly answered. Any pleasure which is of a tamasic happiness is, what is the nature of tamasic happiness or false happiness? Remember this. The false happiness has a unique nature. Anything that's of a tamasic nature has a trait of it is pleasant in the beginning, it is poison in the end. Thanks to the 18th chapter of the Gita. When we get to there, one day we'll see. The 18th chapter of the Gita, he mentions it there. Now, if you want to know which verse it is, I'll tell you. Give me a minute. But the nature of tamasic happiness is, it is poison in the beginning, it is nectar in the beginning and poison at the end. That is the nature of tamasic happiness. So a person who is ignorant of this tamasic happiness, what does he experience? He will be driven by the senses. He is drawn away by the senses. So the opposite of that is, what is the opposite of that? Srimati Ma, what's the opposite of that? The opposite of that is the, you can speak, Srimati Ma.
Yeah, I was thinking it gets sweeter by the minute. It doesn't start off as absolutely pleasant, maybe literally translate, making the opposite. And is it the sattvic happiness?
Yes, it is. But you're very encouraging. You say it only takes a minute to become sweeter. So never mind, try it out. So you are very convincing with the way you say it. Minute by minute becomes sweeter. So you don't have to wait for long. It may be a little bitter in the beginning, but don't worry. Minute by minute, it gets sweeter and sweeter until you can't tolerate the sweetness. It's too sweet. You imagine your gulab jamun is too full of sweetness. One would do. And the madri. Correct?
But I don't know, other tappulliyo, if it is going to be, isn't that poison then? And the gulab jamun thing is really poisonous. No?
Wrong example. Remove the gulab jamun, forget the gulab jamun and take the concept.
Okay,
No, just to tell the concept of sweetness.
Gulab jamun enak tamasiknu thonirudhu.
Then rasgulla podlama?
Vendam.
Adu venda. So what do you want? Whatever jalebi or whatever you want, you would think of that. It becomes sweeter and sweeter. Your life becomes merrier and peaceful, contented, happiness. In fact, anything which has a distasteful beginning and has a pleasantness at the end, it is of a sattvic nature. It is chapter 18, verse 37. Verse 37 talks of sattvic happiness. Verse 38 talks of rajasic happiness. And verse 39 talks of tamasic happiness. So rajasic and tamasic happiness is, which is like poison in the beginning, nectar and sattva. Nectar in the beginning, poison in the end is rajasic or tamasic. False happiness, all you can understand is which is true happiness and false happiness. Now, people who don't have this insight of the true nature of happiness, they fall a prey to the carnal pleasures, to the instant pleasures. Alas, because of their physical indulgence, because falling a prey to that immediate pleasure, what has happened to the body? He says, Paschadanta sharire rogaha. The body is full of rogam. I have seen umpty number of people, in spite of their body, they are just alive because of the number of pills that they take. They are surviving only because of pills. Their body is full of disease from head to toe, yet they will not change their attitude or recklessness to life and their indulgence. As I've said when I did the previous verse, if you have not conquered your tongue, you're unfit for spirituality. Unfit, disqualified, dismissed. I have to be strong here. You can't control your 2-inch palate, What are you talking about? What control you can practice? What spiritual transformation you're talking about? Unfit, disqualified, dismissed. So you can't control your palate. There is no taste of the food before the food touches the tongue. Neither has it got a taste once it passes the tongue. Yet for that short moment, you don't mind inviting disease, rogaha, into your body. I remember many years ago, I was invited to one of the very prominent families in Hyderabad. Very, very opulent aristocrat family. Not even opulent, aristocrat life. They've lived a life of aristocracy. And one day they had invited a few of us for a meal. And my God, I still remember what kind of a spread they had. A long dining table full of, you can just choose to pamper yourself in whatever you want. I'm saying it 25 years ago. It's not a question of what I experienced. What struck me more was the head of that family, that lady. She was sitting on the one side of the table, the head of the table, and I was sitting next to her, and she was telling me, I just asked, Amma, how come you're not eating? Mine is coming. Oh, okay. I thought something tailor-made for her. I said, okay, ma, because of her age. I said, okay. And then I was shocked what came her way. 2 plates came in a big tray, 2 plates. One serving was only raw boiled vegetables. Another plate was 10 tablets. And she said, Vinay, this is my life, she said. I cannot get into anything that's there for you all. Please enjoy, but forgive me, I can't. My life, I only survive. If I don't take any of these tablets, it's a matter of time. It's all gone. I'm only surviving on pills. Don't justify it's all age related. I know people say, how long am I going to live? Let me indulge and die. Na? People are proudly, they announce that. What is life meant for? Life is meant to enjoy. So let me enjoy all what I want and then die. But remember, you're only inviting rogaha. And when these masters say, don't fall a prey to carnal pleasures, they are not saying, please don't enjoy. Senses are to experience better sense enjoyments. There's nothing wrong with it, isn't it? It doesn't mean I must put a spoonful of chili every mouthful of it, because that is against sensual pleasure. Your tongue should not taste pleasant things. No, put chili. I should not be sitting on a comfortable chair, put a few needles and sit on a bed of needles. Does that mean you should punish yourself of any sense comfort? No, it doesn't mean that. It is only saying whether your mind establishes the sense contact or the intellect establishes the sense contact. Sense contact is not driven by the mind. Sense contact is not determined by quantum, please. Self-control is not quantitative. It is neither qualitative. Oh, let's say if I wear a Rolex watch. Look at that fellow, indulgent fellow. If I wear a normal Casio watch, very simple, very fellow who lives a life of self-discipline, self-control. Does quality determine whether I'm living a life of self-control? If I have four parathas, look at that fellow. He talks self-control and is eating 4 parathas. Does quantity determine? Quantity doesn't determine self-control. So never mind. We can have whatever quantity we want. But that doesn't mean don't excuse and say, oh, Gita itself says, Guruji says no quantity required. Therefore, let me go. Chalo yaar, maja karenge. It is not qualitative. It is neither quantitative. But what is it that determines self-control? I will certainly come back to this next week, please. But I want to conclude with this, so at least your thoughts are structured on this concept for now. What is it that determines self-control? It is neither quantitative, it is not qualitative. What determines self-control or sense indulgence is if your mind establishes a contact with the sense objects, it is sense indulgence. I repeat, when your mind establishes a contact with the sense object, it is sense indulgence. If the intellect establishes a contact with the sense objects, it is called self-control. So the question is, what establishes the contact? It is not what you contact, it is not how much you contact, it is neither quantitative nor qualitative. It is what establishes the contact. And if you establish a right contact, you can enjoy the sense object the rest of your life. You will be proud to say that even at the age of 75, 80, I can have a double dose gulab jamun. Srimadima, double dose of sugar gulab jamun at the age of 80 without any mental remorse or sin, because I have led a disciplined life. I can afford to eat without any worry, because I've worshipped my body. I have not used my body as an avenue to dump it with indulgence. It's not a garbage bin. You got to use all the essentials so that you respect your body. How do you treat your body? I'll come back to all these elements, but remember, sense indulgence is mind, sense contact, self-control is intellect. It doesn't matter what you contact, it is how you contact it. It is not what you contact, please. It is how you contact. And this is what that conveys the real crux. So either you're contacting or you're indulging. You know it. I'll come back to it and elaborate further on this aspect. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Namaskar.